Because I thought Gracie was going out all night, I promised her that I would do two things this morning. That I would make her laugh, and that I would keep it short. So I still will keep my promise to you, Gracie. So when I was graduating from high school, I only applied to one university. I applied to Auburn University in Alabama. I wanted to go to Auburn so bad. My two best friends that I had known since, we were very little, we met in England. Both of our families were in the military, and we went from England to Germany to San Antonio, and all the three of us, we were going to go to Auburn together. It was the only university I applied to. I graduated 13th in my class of 1,000. I played football, baseball, drama, speech and debate, National Honor Society. I did okay on the SAT. I thought I was a shoo-in. But this is what I learned as you were applying to colleges and universities. What you want to receive in the mail is the big 8.5 by 11 envelope that's kind of weighty. You don't want to get the letter-sized envelope that's really thin and not very heavy at all. And unfortunately, that's the letter that I got from Auburn University. It was August. I hadn't applied to any other school. I had friends who went to Auburn, LSU, Georgia, Georgetown, NYU, University of Chicago, Stanford, University of Texas, Austin, Texas A&M, Rice, Baylor, TCU, SMU, and because I hadn't applied to any other college and I had put all of my eggs in this basket, I was condemned, I thought, to have to go to community college. Here's the thing. I was ashamed. I should have been ashamed, but I was ashamed because I was comparing myself to everything that all of my friends were doing. And now, these days, when I hear stories about people who have paid millions of dollars trying to get their kids into certain Ivy League and prestigious universities, it makes me a little mad. Because you shouldn't really have to be able to buy yourself into a university. I really feel like you should be able to earn yourself into a university. But unfortunately, I didn't earn my way in. For whatever the rubrics were, I didn't make my way in. And that was one of the very first hard setbacks of my quote-unquote adulthood. And I had to come to accept that. And one of the hardest things in all of our lives is to accept a setback, or to accept circumstances which we feel probably aren't very fair, but they happen to us for some reason or another. But one of the spiritual disciplines, Gracie, and all of us that we can glean from these setbacks and these hardships, these struggles, these obstacles, these sufferings that we go through, is I don't think that God necessarily does these things to us to teach us a lesson, but by the grace of God, we can learn a lesson from them. And so I learned to humble myself and to experience the community college for what it was. A wonderful opportunity to learn at the feet of some amazing instructors who put in front of me a syllabus as a guide and an opportunity to learn more about myself and learn more about the world. And once I took the name of whatever the college was off of whatever it was I was using to sort of dictate what I thought was my God-given right to go to and to accept the learning and the opportunity that was in front of me, I learned so much. I think if all of us were to do like a spiritual, mental, emotional inventory of our lives, I bet most of us would say we learned a lot more from our setbacks than we did from our successes. That we celebrated our successes and our triumphs, but really those were fleeting and they went away so quickly. But it was what we learned from our setbacks, our failures, our losses that really allowed us to open ourselves up and our hearts up to really receive some lessons from God. Brene Brown, the wonderful psychologist and speaker, she has a wonderful quote about losses and sufferings that I think just really speaks to this opportunity, which is, every time that we have a setback, it is an opportunity for our heart to become more loving, our heart to become more soft, and our lives to become more open. And the more I look at the opportunities that God has placed me in to open myself up and to become more loving and to have my heart soften, they have brought me to a place in my life now that when I encounter difficult situations, I can do so much more easily and much more readily with grace and with love and with acceptance. I want to share with you a story. This is what's going to make you laugh. I want to share with you a story that happened 3 years ago on Memorial Day weekend. We were done setting up the Lander Hall with the tables ready for the Memorial Day pancake breakfast, and I walked into the kitchen to grab a carton, a thing of hummus that had been sitting in the refrigerator for 2 weeks, and if someone didn't eat it, it was going to go bad, so I took it home with me. And that's a really important detail, by the way. So while I headed home, I walked home and I open up my door. My dogs come and they go and they do their business. And then I come back inside and I put the hummus in the refrigerator. So the way my house is kind of set up is I can look into my bedroom from my kitchen. So as I'm putting the hummus in the refrigerator, I look in the corner of my eye and I see that there are blankets hanging over the windows. And I'm adult. So I look at the dogs and I go like, did y'all do that? And then I started to listen and I heard the shower running. And I knock on the door and I open it and I go, hello, I live here? And out walks this young man who has been showering in my shower in his birthday suit. And I grab a towel and I'm like, here you go, dry yourself off. And I close the door, because he wants privacy. And so then I go back into my little living room, and I can watch from the bathroom to the bedroom, and I'm watching that, and he scurries out, and he goes into the bedroom, and he closes the door behind him. And I'm like, well, no one really wants to be watched while they dress, so that's okay. So I give him a few moments, and then I go and I knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, hello, yeah. And he was like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, that's all right. It's cool. Like, what's your name? And he gave me his name. I don't remember. He told me his name. I was like, well, I'm Darryl. And he was like, just had his pants on at this point. And he was like, I'm so sorry. Someone told me that I could come here. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're sorry. Who told you you could come here? And he said, Beyonce. And I said, Beyonce? And he said, yes, I communicate telepathically with Beyonce. And she said that I could come here and I would be safe. And I said, well, you're safe, but I can't have you stay here. And the reason why I can't have you stay here is because there's other people that live in my little area, and I don't really know who you are, and I can't put them in danger. But if you'd like, I could. I was like, where have you been staying? He was like, well, I've been living in the park, and the last couple nights I've been beat up. I'm like, well, I'm really sorry that that's happened to you, but I can't have you stay here. I'll be happy to call a shelter if you would like to go to a shelter. And he said, I don't want to go to a shelter. I was like, well, that's your right. You have every right to that, but you can't stay here. So I'm going to need you to pack up your stuff because you've kind of thrown some stuff around. I need you to pack up some stuff, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave. So then he starts to put things away, and I go and I lean in my kitchen by my microwave and everything, and then it just occurred to me, I could do something else. So I said, would you like a sandwich? And so I made him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I was like, hey, I've got some leftover cherries. You want some cherries? He's like, I like cherries. I was like, all right. So I put some cherries in there. I was like, do you need any money? He was like, no, I don't need any money. I was like, all right. So I gave him the lunch, and I handed it to him, and I walk him out, and I go down to the end of my area of my house, and I walk him off the property, and right before he gets to the end, I go, hey, just real quick, the next time you find yourself in someone's house, the situation might not end up as nice as this. You might not end up walking out with a sandwich and cherries. So I need you to promise me that you won't do this again. Because you could get hurt, or worse, you could get shot and killed. And he's like, I promise. And I said, I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to pray for you. God bless. And off he went. And I went back to my house, and I saw the screen now that had been moved, and the window moved, and that's how he got in. And I walk into my house, and I look at my two dogs, And I go, you two are worthless. The next day is Memorial Day, and I'm standing in Lander Hall with the Buchanans, and Fiona and Eliza and Brian and Jillian are standing there, and I'm telling them this story. And I turn to Eliza and Fiona, and I go like, so girls, what lesson did we learn? And Fiona goes, that you should make sure your windows are locked. I was like, yes. That's definitely one lesson. And then Eliza deadpans it. She goes, if Beyonce tells you you can do something, you can get away with it. I was like, exactly. That's exactly the point. But honestly, Gracie and everyone, the point of the story is we have opportunities in our lives to show kindnesses each and every moment. You will have those choices. We will have those choices. When we have a setback in our lives, they are opportunities for us to soften our heart, not harden them, to open our hearts, not close them, to become more loving, not more judgmental. So use your losses, your setbacks, your hardships, your struggles to launch you out into the world with a soft heart, an open heart, a loving heart. So that when those opportunities, which will come at you in weird and unexpected ways when all you thought you were doing was stealing hummus from the church, then you can respond as Christ would have us respond. And that's what it means to truly win the lottery. Amen?